Hello and welcome to the Daily Space for today, May 29th, 2019. I'm your host, Dr. Pamela Gay, and I am here to put science in your brains. Today, we actually have a lot of science policy and science history, not a whole lot of science, and I'm going to blame it on the fact that it's a holiday week here in the United States, and well, maybe there's not a whole lot of new and awesome going on. Unfortunately, there's, what may best be described as sad and political going on. As some of you may already know, there are currently plans afoot to send a new probe out to the moon, Europa, that is orbiting Jupiter. This is the world in our solar system that is probably most likely to have life, other than Earth, of course. This is a world that has a liquid ocean underneath a ice layer that is a few to tens of kilometers thick. Now, our plans to send a orbiter to this world have been nested into the current decadal survey. They have been prioritized as some of the most important that NASA and the National Science Foundation can currently support. But the issue is, my computer went mad for a moment. Sorry about that random flickering back and forth. But one of the issues with this is Congress has been very detail-focused in micromanaging this mission. They set a hard deadline on when it should launch. They mandated, exactly what spacecraft, or in this case, rocket craft, it should be launched on, and they set a budgetary cap. And when you give things that many constraints, things can go sideways. There was just released a NASA Office of the Inspector General audit of the management of NASA's Europa mission. And they brought to the forefront several problems that are deeply concerning at the moment. The first of these is this mission is currently mandated by Congress to launch on the Space Launch System, and it's mandated to launch in 2023, but it doesn't currently look like the Space Launch System is necessarily going to be functioning and ready to launch Europa Clipper by 2023. This means that the mission is mandated to launch on one vehicle, but recognizing that they're also mandated to launch in a specific year, they're now trying to build the mission flexibly enough that it can also launch on a Delta, on a Falcon Heavy. And trying to build this level of flexibility into a spacecraft is just not something that, keeps costs down. And it's also something that means that it's impossible to do long-term costing because they don't know exactly what they're going to have to do. Now, the other thing that is plaguing the Europa Clipper mission is it's currently being built at the Jet Propulsion Lab along with a variety of other missions. And because of personnel constraints, because of budgetary constraints, it looks like the suite of 4 other missions that are being built simultaneously are potentially going to put the Europa Clipper in danger of not having the personnel it needs at certain critical moments. One way to think of this is if you have multiple spacecraft that are all timelined out so that this one peaks here, this one peaks here, you can have the same humans working on a whole variety of different spacecraft. But if you're working on a variety of spacecraft that are all peaking at the exact same time, those people can't all give it their all for all those missions. So this is a concern to the NASA. I'm going to sneeze. Sorry about that, folks. So that is also a concern to the NASA OIG. Now, in addition to all of this, Congress also, in the recent excitement of the success of so many other missions, said that NASA should also build a lander to go with the Europa Clipper, which means Europa Clipper may need to incorporate into its launch plan another vehicle that is under budgeted, that isn't part of the decadal survey, that wasn't part of anyone's original plan, and that can't be optimized the way we would like, because the data we would use to optimize it is data that comes from the Europa Clipper. So by adding a lander onto this mission, we're potentially jeopardizing its ability to finish on time. And the current budget doesn't necessarily include, in fact, it flat out doesn't include, the funding that that little lander needs in the future in order to be a success. So there's a whole lot of concern. And I just want to correct myself. Congress originally mandated a 2023 launch date, and for the lander, it mandated a 2025 launch date. So these are two separate vehicles. I misread that initially. Nonetheless, it's all quite concerning. And if Clipper goes over budget, if its lander goes over budget, that money is going to have to get pulled from other things. And if this sounds familiar, it's because it is. James Webb is currently pulling funding from other things. And then there's that whole trying to get back to the moon. And I'm really worried that this is another case of setting deadlines that aren't driven by what is needed to actually do things right, but are driven by what is politically expedient. So here's to hoping that this OIG report that has come out, and let me share the link to the full, or at least to the published part of the report with you. Let's hope that this report sufficiently puts the fear of, well, cost overruns into people, and they're able to figure out how to do this in a way that maximizes the science and minimizes the impact this mission will have on other missions, and that scheduling constraints of other missions will have on Europa Clipper. Europa Clipper is something that I think everyone agrees we want to see happen. So here's to its success. Okay, so after that downer, we are going to switch modes to history. On this day, 100 years ago, that makes it in 1919 when they were taking glass plate black and white photographs, a bunch of astronomers traveled to random locations, not very random actually, planned out locations that were in the path of a total solar eclipse. That would be this photo here. Now, the reason they did this is in 1915, Einstein had said, our understanding of gravity isn't complete. Newton's theories leave out some details. And he put forward his general theory of relativity that said that light, which has no mass, is capable of interacting with gravity. And gravity is, in fact, the warping of space-time. It's the shape of space. And in saying this, he was able to do things like explain the orbit of Mercury. But while that was observable, the idea of light responding to gravity, well, we didn't have in the 19-teens a ready way to prove or disprove that light was getting bent by gravity. And so a bunch of scientists traveled the world to put themselves in the path of a total solar eclipse. And during that eclipse, They recorded the positions of stars that were behind the sun and whose light would have, not directly behind, but like spatially in the background of the sun, and whose light would pass very close to the sun and hopefully get bent as predicted. And the light was bent as predicted. So in this famous glass plate by Arthur Eddington, they recorded the positions of a myriad of stars, and it's these that are closest to the sun that matter most. And then 6 months before, they had also measured the same part of the sky, except with the sun behind the observers instead of in front of them. And by comparing the positions of the stars, with the sun between the Earth and the stars, and without the sun between the Earth and those stars, they were able to measure matching Einstein's relationships. They were able to measure how gravity bends light. So it's kind of amazing now that we use relativity for GPS, for Pokemon Go. You rely on relativity when you're catching that Snorlax. Relativity is now how we live our lives. But 100 years ago, it was still being proven. So it's kind of awesome. Okay, so one more happy story for the day. So as some of you remember, back in 1969, NASA landed the first human on the moon. And this summer, we're celebrating the anniversary of that event. With the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, the United States Postal Service is going to be releasing on July 19th these commemorative stamps. These are forever stamps, which means you can go out and buy a gazillion of them and use them for the rest of your life to inflict space on everyone you send physical mail to. Now, I, for one, very rarely send physical mail that uses stamps. I send stuff on Etsy all the time, but that's like stuff I print out. So you may not need the forever stamps, but can I recommend you get a few and like inflict them on others in your life just because? Anyways, this is kind of cool. I can't wait. I will be walking to my post office on July 19th and getting myself some stamps. So that's pretty much the news that we have for today, and I am now going to answer your questions. Go ahead, type them in the chat, and remember to @me at CosmoQuestX so that I can find them more readily. While you type those into the chat, I'm just going to remind you, this is a production of the Planetary Science Institute, working in collaboration with Youngstown State University. We are part of a 501c3 nonprofit. This means that your donations are tax deductible where the law allows. We are brought to you by you. If you like the show and you want to if you like this show and you want to see it continue, please consider dropping us a sub here on Twitch or giving us, well, your patronage over on patreon.com/CosmoQuestX. Now, we know that not everyone can financially support us, and that's okay. One of the best things you can do to help us out is to spread the word. Share our show, share our links, get other people learning science and being part of this. If you can't watch us live on twitch.tv/CosmoQuestX, that's okay. All of our episodes are archived over on YouTube. So please check it out over on YouTube and never miss a daily update. The Daily Space comes to you most Mondays through Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. That is 6 p.m. London time. Guido, I know you're out there making dinner. It's always great to have you here with us. So check us out. Sundays, we bring you the Sunday Science Hour with our own binary blaze, Annie Wilson. She's currently in the process of colorizing Spitzer images to show how we go from the black and white data that comes off the spacecraft to the beautiful combined color images that end up in calendars and planetarium shows. So check that out. And if you give us a follow here on twitch.tv, you will get notified whenever we go live. These shows are not all that we do. We also go live when there is a launch, a landing, a science announcement, and sometimes just because we want to do science with you. Okay, so I'm now going to scroll through the chat and find all your questions starting at the top. So Herleo asks, how long would trip to Europa take? Yes, it does take years. Exactly how many depends on what orbital approach they use, when they take off, what planets they can get gravitational assists from. So I can't tell you exactly how long, but yeah, it takes years. Hello, Astro B. It pleases me that you always say hi. Yes, Larry. Thank you for the bits, Fenring. Okay, I have to switch screens so that you can see the doujas. So for those of you who don't know, we thank you by giving you cuteness. There. Oh, there are now bits all over the dog. So thank you with cuteness. Thank you. Okay. And thank you, Hoopatron, for the follow. Thank you. So Henny's Vorverb asks, do you know what any of the 4 other sister missions are? I have to admit, I didn't look that up this morning. I could have, but decided to make coffee instead because I was depressed by the Europa Clipper news. Larry, not Paul Eddington, Arthur Eddington. Arthur Stanley Eddington. So Henny's Vorverb says, would we need the Hubble telescope to be able to find Einstein rings? Is there any other way this could have been confirmed? So the first time we were able to observe the light from a background galaxy getting gravitationally warped into a circle by a foreground object was using the Hubble Space Telescope. Nowadays, technology is so much better than it was in the 1990s and early 2000s. Using the Very Large Telescope down in Chile, we have the ability to take high-resolution images that have the same resolution as the Hubble Space Telescope and actually see much fainter objects. So with today's technology, we can do it from the ground. But when we first started observing Einstein rings, it could only be done with the Hubble Space Telescope. So Hanny also goes on to ask, when we go back to the moon, will we need new spacesuits or will we be using the originals? Well, the originals are mostly in museums and not well maintained, and please God, don't use them. We like the astronauts, don't let them die. While it would be possible to just replicate the original designs to build new spacesuits, technology and materials have gotten much better. We now have new composites, new plastics, new crazy stuff weaving together threads of metals and polymers that allow us to make spacesuits that are just as safe from radiation, but weigh a lot less, are much more flexible and less bulky. There are a variety of different ways that new spacesuits are currently being designed. One of the cool things that they're looking at doing for the future is designing spacesuits that actually kind of, you plug your shoulders and the back of your head. Thank you for the bits. Eddie, look at the camera. Eddie tries so hard to catch them. One of the plans that they're currently looking at is to make it so that you can essentially plug your shoulders into the lander, the human module, and open a hatch or have a computer open a hatch behind you and then climb out of your spacesuit somehow. They've figured this out. I haven't tried one out, so I'm not sure how the geometry works. But the idea of this is with this kind of a design where the outside of your spacesuit never gets inside the human module. This is designed to keep the lunar dust, which is extraordinarily sharp, extraordinarily irritating to skin. It's designed to keep that lunar dust from sneaking into the human habitat. So check out the Desert Rats program. They've been working to solve this problem and doing experiments out in the American Southwest. Check it out. Okay. Let's see. That is Nightbot. So Rukotu, I hope I said your name correctly. I'm not sure I did. Rukato presents, says, has a gyroscope-driven controlled rover ever been considered for planetary lunar exploration? There's too much friction in the system to be able to operate a lander the same way we operate spacecraft using a gyroscope. They are used for navigation purposes, but not as part of the drive system the way we use them for spacecraft. Guido is making things with mushrooms. Excellent. Thank you again, Fenring. Goulash. You can't get good goulash in the U.S. Okay. Thank you, Bloombody, for the bits. Looking to see if there's more questions. Binary ablaze. Yes, lunar dust is like Kuwaiti sand, but actually way worse. Sand is sharper when it's younger and when it has experienced less water. So sand that has been blown and blown and blown, the edges get knocked down, it gets rounded down a bit. Sand that is buffeted around in water, such as at the bottom of stream beds, is the roundest. But on the moon, you don't have wind, and the sand is actually made through the impact of things like micrometeorites, and so, yeah, moon dust is, well, much pointier, as Susie puts it in the chat. So, yeah, it's kind of a mess. Okay, so while I still have you here, I'm going to remind you of two things. The first thing I'm going to remind you of is we need your help mapping the asteroid Bennu. The spacecraft OSIRIS-REx has done its due diligence observing the surface of this 0.5 kilometer across asteroid. It has taken a myriad of images. We have built an interface in which you can see the images, and we're going to ask you to go in and map all the boulders, all the rocks, and the occasional crater in these images. Some of you have at various points encountered problems where the software is like, I am not going to give you another image. We have confirmed multiple times with everyone who has asked that all the data is getting written to the database. It just very rarely and increasingly rarely as we work on the system. Thank you, Herleu. Ooh, I have to figure out how to get the dogs back. We have confirmed all the data is getting saved, and we just need you to press reload to get to the next image. So please help us map out Bennu. Now, the other thing that I want to remind you of that I haven't brought up in ages because there's just been so much going on is at the end of the summer, if you are looking for a vacation plan, I have got a plan for you. You are all invited to join me. Oops, I made that too big. You are all invited to join me in the American Southwest in, well, my favorite part of the country. This is where I spent my summers with my grandparents. It's where I went to graduate school. It's where I did a summer research experience. Come with me. Start out in Tucson, Arizona. Come see the Planetary Science Institute where we work. Come see Kitt Peak National Observatory. Journey with me across the American Southwest. We're going to end the tour in Las Vegas. And let's see the most beautiful geology, in my opinion, that this planet has to offer. And let's explore the places that take so many of the amazing images that have let us understand our solar system and beyond. So check it out. It is a pricey tour, but that's because all hotel, all travel, all visiting all of the visitor centers, everything is included. This is an all-inclusive, well, there's a few meals you're on your own for, but this is a pretty much all-included, except for a few of the meals, kind of tour. So come join me, and I hope I can see you in the American Southwest. Okay, so Binary Blaze asks, what's the status of Mars mapping? You're going to help me coding it next week is the status of it. We're going to be turning it on soon, so just stay tuned. Hania asks, how did the lunar rovers handle the dust? Did we leave the keys in the car? We did leave the keys in the car. And the lunar rovers were designed that all the motors were closed off so that dust couldn't get in. And the tires were made out of E-string piano wire so that the dust could just fall out. They rocked it out, and they did exactly what they were designed to do. Yeah, we don't need another sun. Whoever is encouraging another sun, it's quite warm. It's quite very warm. Have I mentioned I don't yet have air conditioning? Yeah, these are things I need to work on. Yes, Larry. They used E-string piano wire to make the wheels on the lunar rovers. It's one of my favorite completely random facts about the lunar rovers. Okay, so that's all I've got. I hope to see all of you mapping out, well, Bennu over on Bennu Mappers. And if you need a good vacation at the end of this summer after mapping all those rocks, please check out astrotours.co/Starstrider. That's astrotours.co/Starstrider. Spelled with a Y. I was dumb in my 20s. Okay, so here is your standard reminder. The daily space is part of CosmoQuest X. We are your place to learn and do science. Please join us over on CosmoQuest.org and see all the other things that we have to offer, from blogs to educational content to ways for you to get involved in mapping our solar system and beyond. Bennu needs you. Actually, it's OSIRIS-REx that needs you in our battle, well, to map all the rocks and find the scientifically best places to go explore. Wow, my dogs are lazy. To go explore with the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. Thank you so much, Keeper of Maps. There are so many rocks, so many rocks, so many rocks. Help us map all of them so that we can find the safe place to touch down and grab a soil sample for the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. We only have until July 10th. At that point, they're going to use the data from all of you and me, I'm doing this too, to do high resolution imaging of the best looking potential landing sites. We are a production of the Planetary Science Institute, working in collaboration with Youngstown State University. We are tax deductible where the law allows, and we are brought to you by you. If you like the show, please consider making either a regular recurring donation over on patreon.org/CosmoQuestX or being a sub right here. And thank you, Veronica, right here on twitch.tv. One-time donations are also deeply appreciated. Check out cosmoquest.org/donate to learn more. And we come to you most Mondays through Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern. That is 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. London time. Watch us along with Keto while you make dinner, all of you good folks in Europe. And I think that's all I've got to say, to add, other than to ask, who would you like me to raid today? We are part of the Brain Bites team and the Knowledge Fellowship. We are always looking for cool people to raid to keep the science going. And I'm recovering from bronchitis. Sorry for coughing into the microphone's vicinity. I'm looking to see who is currently live so that we can keep your learning going. Paranor is one of our community members. Yeah, he's Minecrafting. Let's go ahead and we're going to raid one of our mods. This isn't an educational stream unless you loved Minecraft, which is an educational game played by school children and adults everywhere. So give Paranor a happy CosmoQuest welcome and light up the chat. I just need to make sure I know how to spell his Twitch handle correctly. Oh man, hold on one moment. I can do the thing. I can do the thing. I can do the thing over here and it will fix the spelling for me. Too many interfaces, too many screens. There he is. Okay, so let's give Paranor a lit up CosmoQuest welcome. And thank you all for being here. And wherever you are in the world, have a fabulous morning, evening, afternoon. And if the weather allows, get outside and look up. Bye-bye.